All right, here's Mark Branch. It's the, I guess, day zero, as I've been calling it, of the Big 12 tournament. The tournament starts tomorrow. This is Friday. You guys are up here. Looks like a couple guys getting some weight off. You're talking to them, different things like that. Talk a little bit about just your team and what you see from them this season.
It's been, man, a pretty special season, and I would say that based on our last, at least our second semester, because first semester was a little rocky, and we had I think every coach goes into a season with kind of an idea and a game plan, and you know what you have, or you know what you don't have, and you know what you need. And I would say this was one of those years that we kind of like knew what we had, and knowing what we had was, we were like, man, we can be really competitive and build on what we did last year, and pretty much had all of our starting team for the most part back, and then adding a couple of pieces. So we felt like we knew what we had. And then of course November hits, December hits, and all of a sudden you lose a couple of key guys. A couple of our starters were out for the year. A couple of our other starters were out for a significant amount of time. And then we had a couple other starters that were coming back from, last season's injuries and surgery. So they were kind of picking up through the rear of everything, and we knew that, but we didn't know about the other stuff. And our schedule is so challenging, not only wrestling here against Oklahoma State, but then going to Cliff Keen, and then next weekend turn around going to Penn State. And when we went to Penn State, we had half our lineup that was out for a significant amount of time. So it was discouraging. That first semester, you questioned our scheduling, and now all of a sudden you were searching for answers. And we started to get those answers in January, and especially later January. Won 7 of our 8 last duels, and beat West Virginia, who was at the time ranked, I think, 20th. Ended up finishing our season beating Northern Colorado, who had handled us pretty good at the beginning of January in a duel. And so being able to kind of flip that one and getting our lineup back healthy, and then filling in some of those areas of those guys that were out for the year, was very enjoyable, and really just seeing our team bond and come together, and seeing those relationships build in the locker room. I haven't got to experience that as much as I'd want to. You want to see that every year, and you usually either have it with a group that's close, and then when that group maybe moves on and graduates, or a few of those guys graduate, then you maybe lose it a lot of times. So I don't take it for granted. And to see that team bonding happen and those guys battle for each other has been really special, and that's what you want. I mean, man, it just makes you excited to say, now it's clicking. So it's been an exciting second semester, and you've seen a lot of growth. But these guys are, they're right where we want them to be, and we're excited to be here to give it our best.
Do you feel like that's something you've tried, like you and your staff have tried to foster? Did these kids just by default kind of do it?
No, we've tried really hard to foster it, but I think that's that when I say you don't take it for granted, is we always try to foster it. You can't make it happen. You can't force it. And so you're always asking for it, and you're always encouraging it, and you're always talking about it. Sometimes you're talking about it a little bit in the shadows. You're not just coming out directly, because you want them to pick up on the importance of that. And you can't force it. You can't say, hey, you guys need to build a relationship, and you need to fight for each other, and you guys need to be close, and you guys need to care about this team. You can't just directly say you have to do this. You talk about how important it is, and like I said, you talk about it kind of in the background a lot, but you're always hoping it happens, and it just doesn't it doesn't always happen. I think especially it's harder in this time than any, because everybody has transfers, and that's a big part of it. I think when you have a transfer come in who's wrestled at school A for 2 or 3 years, and now they're finishing up maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, how invested are they in your culture, in your program, or are they just trying to focus on their individual success? So I think it's harder now than it probably ever has been. So to see this group really do that, and you see the results of it. That's the most important thing, I think, is they saw the results of it. They saw when they invested in each other, we started having more success as a team, and so I think it's a powerful thing, but it's bigger than wrestling. That's what I mean. We're so competitive. Everybody in the sport's so competitive, but the relationships you build, I talk to my college teammates weekly. We text each other. We're in a group text chat. We're talking all the time, and I'm like, the relationships you build are bigger than what you do on the mat. They really are. As much as we want to win everything, I think those are the things that matter the most.
So with that, you're back in your home state. Is it kind of cool to come back to Tulsa or come back to Oklahoma every year for the conference tournament?
Yeah, just took my 92-year-old grandpa grocery shopping, and we went and got him some Church's chicken, and got to visit with him for several hours. So my brother just got into town, and so we're gonna meet up with him here in a minute for dinner, and so those things, that makes it special. My cousin's son's wrestling next door, his 12-year-old son's wrestling next door. And so I'm going to see a lot of people that what are those things about? Those are about relationships. My college roommates are going to be here tomorrow, friends that, forever. So, that obviously I'm biased when I fight for Tulsa and say I like Tulsa. I know a lot of coaches get a little tired of it being in Tulsa, but there's a lot of good reasons here, and then I have my own selfish reasons. So it is fun to come back.
So with all that camaraderie and all the coming together, do you feel like they're kind of in the right spot as you go into this weekend?
Yeah, and you don't know as a coach. I was laughing because I'm like, last year I didn't feel this good, and then we really performed well, and we outperformed our seeds, so much higher than any other team. I know in track they basically have something you can go in there to where your team was seated and where you outperformed, and we were like 15 times above where we were seated, and the next best team was like 4. And so, and I didn't feel good last year, so you don't know. I felt like our guys were struggling to come here with the right attitude, and we're struggling to get to this point. And this year, I feel so great about them. So I just, I told them just now, I said, I'm only going to ask you the next 2 days to do what I asked you to do in November, which is go out and fight for 7 minutes and have fun. Nothing's changed. So from day one, that's all I asked out of you. And today, that's all that matters. Go out and fight for 7 minutes. Enjoy it, have fun. I promise you, sometimes it feels like a burden. But there'll be a time, which all of us that ever did it know that there will be a time when you can't do it anymore, and all you have are memories of it, So go out and enjoy it. It's not a burden, it's a privilege to have this opportunity to wrestle here in this awesome event, awesome arena, a lot of fans. We've been doing it several times this year. We've had great crowds to compete in front of, and so go out and show your craft off and have fun.
So you've sort of seen the full evolution of the Big 12. You were at Oklahoma State when it was the kind of old school Big 8. I guess it was actually the Big 8 back then when you were competing, and then it changed a little bit, and then it's a whole new look now. But right now, I would argue it might be as tough as it's ever been. You got 16 schools, and Missouri's back. There's it's just Arizona State just came in last year. It's a tough conference. What do you think this does in maybe a negative way? It could be a positive way, whatever, as far as preparing your guys for the NCAA tournament in a couple of weeks?
Well, I've had a lot of conversations about this. And, even with some of my fellow coaches, and I've shared my opinion on this, and especially what I just said, is some people want to gripe about Tulsa. And I'll say this, and this isn't any knock on North Dakota State, but the last year before we joined the Big 12, our conference tournament was at North Dakota State, and their gym was being renovated. So we were in this tiny, I don't even know what you would call it. I wouldn't call it a gym, maybe a practice gym. It was an old thing, and I mean, we had a bunch of local refs. We had mats that had to be taken out because they weren't the right size, and at last minute, they're having to find a replacement mat that was actually met collegiate standards. Like I said, all the refs were just hired by the host school. They were all North Dakota guys, and that's the way it was. And trust me, when we hosted it in Wyoming, we hired the refs. Well, we got local guys. We got guys from Colorado, guys from around. They were good, qualified refs, but there's probably not. You don't have the neutrality that you want in that situation. And I'm like, there's no way in the world I'd ever want to go back to that. And a matter of fact, I was arguing. One coach was like, "Wouldn't it be cool though for you to host it?" And I go, "What? Me to host it once every 10 years? Once every 14 years? Who cares? I host it once every." I mean, you look at the Big Ten, which is great. They have a great tournament. They have obviously a great wrestling conference. But if you're a Big Ten school and you host it once every 14 years, is it really special to host it? Wouldn't you rather put it in a place like this that's going to feel just like NCAAs? And so what a benefit it is for us as our athletes. Our athletes have prospered, and there's absolutely no doubt if you make the Big 12 finals and you run up on that stage, and yeah, I mean, there's 5,000-6,000 fans. I know it's not, we're not getting 19,000 for the conference tournament, but still, you do that live on ESPN, you're ready to go to NCAAs. So it's a huge advantage. I'm appreciative. I'm thankful. The thing is, I'm like, hey, I would do this anywhere, but I want to do it like this. And Tulsa makes it special. They make it a real event. They roll out the red carpet. And I know there's some personal bias, as I said before, but they help our athletes get ready for NCAAs. And I never want that to change.
So next 2 days, what do you hope to see from your team?
10 champs. I mean, let's be. If any coach does something different, they're lying. That's what everybody wants to see. Now, I want them to wrestle hard. They've made great adjustments, learning. They've been very coachable the last 2 months. We've had guys that have wrestled poorly, and we've sat down, watched film, and said, "This is why I'm critical. This is why I say you wrestle poorly. This is what you need to change." And we'll turn around the next competition and they make those adjustments and make those changes. So as long as they do that, they take what we've been talking about throughout the season, and then they go out there and just fight hard for 7 minutes, I'm going to be happy. I'm much easier to satisfy now than I was 15 years ago. So my answer is go out and fight. I'm going to be proud of that. I'm going to be proud that they're out there wearing a Wyoming singlet. As long as they go out there and fight hard, and by fight I'm talking about just wrestle for 7 minutes in every situation. Don't drop your head. And I told an Oklahoma State fan that on the elevator just coming down here, he was talking about my mom, and I wish my mom was still around to yell at my team, because I sound like my mom now rather than a coach. I'm just screaming, "Get your head off the mat," because that stuff drives me crazy. The stuff my mom was yelling for 30 years is now the stuff I'm coaching. It's just, I'm not coaching technique. Just get your head off the mat and wrestle. Don't drop your head and stop wrestling. So that's all I want.
I sat next to your mom at a duel one time, and she was at an OSU duel, and she was a fiery lady for sure.
She could scream, and you could hear on the mat, and everybody could. And when I was wrestling, all my teammates knew my mom, and my teammates would respond to my mom. So she had that voice that could carry, and she didn't say a lot. She didn't yell out technique. She'd yell out she'd scream at you to bust your butt. So that's what I do now. So that's all I want to see.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, I'll let you get back to your team, Coach, but appreciate your time and good luck this weekend.
Yep, thank you.